Hey friends, Matt aka Martin here, and today I want to take a look at a new plugin that I've been eyeing off for a while and I got my hands on recently called Emergent Drums by Audialab. Emergent Drums is an AI drum sample generating tool, and I thought it'd be a cool idea to just take a look at it. I've played around with the plugin a little bit already, but I wanted to dive in a little bit on camera and give you some of my thoughts about it. So before we actually get started taking a look at the plugin, this is the website for Emergent Drums. You can see you can buy it here for $149 US, so it's fairly expensive plugin. It's still kind of very early stages. They're consistently developing it and stuff. They've got a cool Discord server and all that where you can chat to the devs and the team and other community members. And you can see here that Emergent Drums is a new music plugin that uses state-of-the-art artificial intelligence to generate novel drum samples, and it actually does so in a really, really fantastic way. So every drum sample is created from scratch. You can create without limits, and as far as I'm aware, every sound you create is royalty free. You don't need to pay Audialab anything. You can sell it. You can do all the stuff that you would do with drum samples you buy from a sample pack, but using created samples from a plugin, which I think is really neat. I'll leave a link to where you can buy and download the plugin in the description below, but without any further ado, let's take a look at the plugin itself. So here I have Emergent Drums loaded up into a new session in Ableton Live. This is a pre-release build, so it has a different kind of model that we'll look at in a little bit, and by default, looks like all the pads are just loaded up as random. It takes a little bit to generate some sounds, but after a few seconds, about a minute or two, we have a bunch of sounds here on a bunch of different drum pads, and each of these different pads has a randomly generated sample on it. So by default, with this pre-release build, all of these sounds are generated using the Creamy model, which just generates random sounds. We're going to switch this to the kind of normal model that they have, which allows you to choose from a bunch of different types of drum sounds. So here I've selected the bottom left pad, and I'm going to go over here, which is where we can see all the kind of parameters for this particular pad. And I'm going to choose the model here to switch that to crunchy. And you can see now this first drop-down menu here, we have a bunch of different sounds here. So let's generate a kick to start, which it's already tried to do here. So let's click on kick. But if I click generate, now we have hopefully a bit more of a kick sound. And you can see here we've got this kind of similar random slider, and basically this allows you to generate either completely random sounds or sounds that are more or less similar to the sound that's already being generated. So let's say I really like this kick sound, I can drag this over to the left and I can generate something that's similar but a little bit different. So click the generate button again. I could maybe make it a little bit less similar. Now, one thing that's worth noting here is you do have to be connected to the internet in order to generate samples. It doesn't generate using your machine's processing power. It kind of does it off-site in a server somewhere, I assume. So let's see if we can get a cool kick drum sound. I'm going to go random here a little bit more. That's way too... Okay, so there's more of a kick drum sample. You see that it kind of takes a little bit to get something that's kind of close to what you want, but now that we've got a decent starting kick drum, I can drag this all the way basically to the similar side and generate another sound. Maybe a little bit less similar. There we go. I find the similar randomized slider is a little bit finicky, but it does work really well most of the time. There we go. So that's more of like a kind of punchy kick sound that I'm keen on. And what's really cool actually is if you've generated a sound previously that you really like and then you accidentally generate a new one, but you don't like it, you can go back to the previous sound with this little back button. And then I can always go back to the sound that I generated before that as well, or the sound that I generated after this with the next sound button. So now that we've got this sound that we kind of like for the most part, we've got a bunch of controls over here, really simple, basic controls, one of which is the attack time, so I can fade this sample in. The other one is the release time, so I can make it even tighter. More of a click kind of sound, make it even longer. We've got like a clip dB slider here, so there is kind of internal clipping in the sampler, and we can gauge this up to basically clip the sample. If we want that really kind of crunchy, like, I don't know, electronic drum sound, let's bring this back down so it's a little bit less crunchy. And you've also got a high and low pass filter here, so we can filter out the high frequencies or the low frequencies or the low frequencies. And then we've got a panning slider here. And then you've got a sample pitch slider here as well. So I can pitch up this sample up 3 octaves, which is quite cool, or down 3 octaves too. Let's keep this in the center though. So there we've got a kick drum sound that we've generated, which is pretty cool. And once we've generated this sound, you can actually click and drag out the sound that you've generated as an audio file into your DAW just by clicking and dragging on this little icon right here, and it drags it out as an audio file into your DAW. Now, one thing that I've noticed with doing this is I run my sessions generally at 48K sample rate when I'm recording video, especially. And this plugin seems to do something a little bit weird in that it kind of doesn't up sample the sample. It generates the sample at 44.1K, and then if I'm exporting it from the plugin using this drag and drop method, then if my session's in 48K, it will render the file as 48K, but play it back as if it's 44.1. So you basically get a pitched up version of the sample. So there's the audio file. There's the sample from the plugin itself. So audio file, plugin. You can hear there's a little bit of a pitch difference there. Now, this isn't too bad. There are plenty of workarounds for this. You can freeze and flatten tracks. You can resample out the audio, but it's just worth noting, and I'm sure this will be fixed in a future update. So let's see if we can generate some other kinds of sounds here. Let's move on to the other pad. I'm going to go back to Crunchy, and let's generate a snare sound here. Kind of more of like a clap kind of sound. So let's have a little bit similar, but more random. So that's more snarey. I kind of want more of a tail. We can clip it, maybe more towards the random. There we go. There's a cool kind of like punch there to this snare. And obviously, you can drag this out and process this sample after the fact. But that's pretty cool as a starting point. We might pitch this down a bit. I noticed some kind of like phasey sounds with the snares sometimes, which isn't too bad, but it's just something worth bearing in mind. Let's generate a closed hi-hat. Actually, let's generate a clap sound. There we go. That's kind of switched the name there. And that's a really good clap sound right off the bat. So sometimes you just get really lucky here. And I kind of like how there's often some, with claps and hi-hats and stuff, you get a little bit of extra stuff at the end here. And you can also trim the length of the sample here as well. So we can adjust the end position and also the start position if you want to. So let's go here and let's generate a tom drum now. I'm going to go to Crunchy and let's generate some kind of a percussion sound right here. Let's see what we get. Interesting kind of percussion sound. Let's make it another random one. So that's more of like a tom kind of sound. So let's make it a little bit more similar. Nah, not too much. Okay, let's go back. Let's make it more similar to this one. Generate another one. And you can just kind of go randomly here, and I might just even generate a few random sounds. There we go. That's more tom-esque. That's pretty cool. Let's go here and generate a hi-hat sound. Now, I actually noticed with the Creamy model, it tends to generate hi-hat sounds. Or really nice tom sounds like that. Actually, I'm going to keep that tom sound there. That's really nice. There we go. There's a cool kind of hi-hat sound here with this Creamy model. Let's go back to Crunchy and let's try generating one more sound right here. Some kind of open hi-hat sound. There we go. That's a nice kind of open hi-hat sound as a starting point. Pretty cool. And then once we've generated a bunch of sounds, we can then drag all of these sounds out at once, or you can save the kit if you would like to. So you can go in here and you can save your kit, or you can load any preset kits as well, which is quite cool. You can also regenerate all the sounds at once with this little kind of cycle button up the top. There's also a bunch of options here on the left. But let's grab all of these samples out right here and pull them into an Ableton Live drum rack. So now I have all of those sounds that I generated in an Ableton Live drum rack, and now we've got a really good starting point for a bunch of cool sounds. And from here, we can, of course, process these sounds to our liking. I might want to go and saturate this kick, for example. Maybe add some EQ as well. Pull up some of those high frequencies. So let's go to our snare, do the same thing. Let's add a channel EQ this time. And I might want to add some kind of a saturator once more and potentially like a transient shaper. And we can repitch this snare, of course, too. And we can make it a little bit shorter if we want to. Overall, this is a really cool way of approaching sound design, and particularly if you're not really fantastic at drum synthesis, or you just want to spend some time creating some interesting drum sounds to use in your own drum synthesis or layer with your own drum synthesis, I think this is a really fantastic way to go about that. And I'm really excited for new developments of this plugin so we can get just some more interesting stuff. And I think Audialab are working on some really fantastic stuff too. I'm going to actually finish off processing some of these sounds, making this kit, and then I'm going to drop it as a download link for you all in the description. If you want another tool for creating some cool drum sounds that doesn't cost $150, I've actually created my own snare drum generator rack, which you can check out in the link below. I've also created a video for that, which you can check out here. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next video.